So I have marked this line here. This needs to be a line of stem stitch, but I'm going to put this in a hoop. So I'm using my spring tension hoop. I'm going to place the hoop part on the top of my fabric because I mainly work with the thread on the top, and I'm going to put the spring part underneath. So I do need to find that with my fingers and the fabric, and I squeezing the tension hoop shut so that I can fit it inside the hoop and then release it, and it will hold my fabric firm. I do want to make sure I don't have high tension points because that can warp my stitching. I'm getting this high tension bit here, so I'm just going to release the tension spring slightly, and that's because I've got a seam allowance on that side. So let's move it away from the seam allowance, part of the piecing. All right, that is less. There you go. I'm happy with that. There is still some tension there. It's because of this seam here. If I just move over just a little bit further, I will be able to get away from that. There we go. All right, so I have got my hoop on this side. I have my spring tension on the bottom. That way, when I'm working from the front, I'm less likely to get my threads caught in these handles. That's the reason I do it that way. And I'm ready to stitch. Stem stitch gives you a slightly thicker line than backstitch, so it's ideal for adding a little bit more of a solid detail to your embroidery project. So I have my thread, I have threaded the needle and knotted the end, and I'm going to start by coming up at the end of this line. So you can see my needles come up there. I have my design line, that's what I will be stitching along. You need to choose which way your thread goes. Generally it is downwards towards you, and then your needle goes, pick how long you want to make your stitch. I'm doing mine no more than well, less than a centimetre, so maybe 3/4 of a centimetre. So not half an inch. And we're taking a stitch to the left, but we're working from left to right. So we're going to go through to the back and then about halfway. I'll show you that again. So you can see my two holes there. I'm taking my stitch here, but I'm coming back out halfway between. And pulling my thread. So my loop of thread goes to the bottom, and then I repeat. I'm holding it down with my thumb. So you're taking a stitch, coming back up right near where you went down for the first stitch. Pushing that through. And holding it down. So the way you hold your thread needs to be the same each time. So my needle is angled slightly that way because I'm avoiding my threads going this way, but I'm still on my blue design line. Hold my thread down, take another stitch, and then come up the hole where I went down for the previous stitch, pull through gently, hold it down. So in essence, your stitch goes from the middle here to where you put your thread down, but it's beside the previous stitch. That's what gives you the more bold line. which makes it perfect for when you want to add those details in an embroidery stitch. So close up, you can see that my stitches all run the same way because I have kept my thread downwards when I make the stitch, and my needle comes out to the top side, my thread goes to the bottom, which means you get that consistency in how the stitch looks. So I have finished that line of stitching and I'm ready to finish off. So basically I'm just going to take that stitch right beside my applique and pull it all the way through. I will knot it at the back. If you don't like doing knots, what you can do is thread your sew your thread through a couple of your previous stitches. That will also end off your thread quite neatly and you haven't got a knot. Have fun!